Okay, let's start, guys. Um, Okay, so today we're actually going to do 2 units because melody writing is really short. So we'll do that for the first half, and then for the second half, we'll do intervals. Okay, so starting with melody writing. So all we have are the basic elements, and then we have writing melodies. So for our basic elements of melodies, we have all of these. So this is basically everything you need to know. So we have motives. So think of motives as building blocks. So they're like the building blocks that you use to create melodies. So they're not actually melodies, but they're more like melodic ideas. So like a really short melodic phrase almost, and then you use it to build a melody. So it's like really short. It can be like 3 or 4 notes. It's like 3 to like 4 notes. It can be really short. Okay, and then a phrase. So I'm sure you guys all know phrases. So they're like basically a sentence, and they can be marked by slurs, and they always end with a cadence. So basically, how you know a phrase has ended is because there is a cadence there. So all you need to know, phrases, sometimes they're marked by slurs and then they always end with a cadence. So a cadence is basically when you have something like 1 to 5 or 5 to 1. So a cadence can be like 2 notes. So you have like, if you're in C major, like C to G, that would be a half cadence. And then if you have like a full cadence, then that would be G to C. So it's basically like the 2 chords at the end of a phrase. Okay, and then melodic motion is basically like you can use repeated notes, steps, skips, or leaps to move throughout your melody. So because you're not just gonna have like the same note the whole time, you also have movement. So that can come in the form of steps. So steps is when you go up by 1 note. So example like C to D. And then a skip is like up 2 notes, I think, and then a leap is 3 notes or more. So melodic motion can come in those forms, and it's basically how we move to different like notes in music. Okay, and then stable scale degrees. So basically, before I was talking about cadences. So when you have a phrase ending on a scale degree such as 1 or 3, so if you were in C major, that would be C or E, then that makes a phrase sound finished. So that means you're ending on 1. So the tonic chord. And that basically means that your phrase is over. It sounds like you've had like a conclusion almost. On the other hand, for unstable scale degrees, so that's like 2 or 7. So those are notes of the dominant triad. So that's when you're ending on 5 or like a half cadence. And basically what that does is it makes your phrase sound unfinished. So it sounds like you asked a question and then it's waiting to be answered like that. Okay, so mainly what you need to know. So cadences are very important. Think of them as like punctuation. And other than that, phrases are sentences, and then motives are building blocks for melodies. So a motive, you can even think of it as like just a set of notes. So example, if you have like, I know C, D, E, that can be a motive as long as it can be used to create a melody. Because like, for example, if you have C, D, E, and then you can go like D, E, F, and then that's basically like a melody. So a motive is a building block. Okay. Okay, so periods. basically, when you have more than one phrase, which is in like all music, they join together to form longer units called periods. And basically, a period is two phrases. So here it says two four-measure phrases. So that's basically the most common type of period that they want you to analyze. So these two phrases have names. So the first phrase is called an antecedent, and this ends basically on an unstable scale degree. So it poses a musical question. So in other words, it ends on like a 5. So that means it's a half cadence. So basically, antecedent is asking a question. And then the second phrase in this period is the consequent. And this phrase ends on a stable scale degree. So it ends with 1. So it goes like 5 to 1, or it can be anything to 1. Well, not anything, but like anything reasonable to 1. So then basically this second phrase ends on 1. So it's authentic. So that's the name of the cadence. So we have half and authentic cadences. And this second phrase ends on that stable scale degree, so it basically it makes you sound like make you think that the music is finished, and basically it provides the answer. So the first phrase in this period is a question, so it sounds unfinished. And then the second phrase is the answer called the consequent, and it makes it sound finished, which is authentic. So basically periods, they're called basically when you have more than one phrase joined together. And then you also might have heard of like different terms, so like parallel and contrasting periods. So basically that's like different types, but we won't get too much into that. Mainly, we're going to be analyzing parallel periods. Okay, so here's an example of a simple period. So the first phrase here is a question or antecedent. And then if you notice, it ends on this unstable scale degree, which is a 2. So this is part of the dominant triad. So if you think about that, like it's the dominant A, C, E. So E is part of the dominant. And then the second phrase here is the consequent, and it ends on a stable scale degree, which is 1. So there we go. Okay. And another thing to note here is that all of these notes from these first few parts are actually the exact same in both phrases. So here and here. So basically what that means is that this is a parallel period. So almost like its name. So both of these phrases are very similar. They're almost like parallel. So that's what you call it when a period has like the exact same material in two phrases, only at the ending is a bit different. So that's called a parallel period. And then a contrasting one, so it's like in the name as well. That's basically when the second phrase is very different from the first, so there's no like same notes or anything in common. So that's a contrasting period. And then when you're writing melodies, all they want you to do is write this last part here to end on a stable scale degree. So all you need to do is like copy down everything in the front and then write something different at the end. So you'll be writing parallel periods. Okay. And then other than that, we won't be using this much, but like phrases, you can also identify them so this is more for like analysis and things like that. So basically, you can use a lowercase a to identify the first phrase, just like the first phrase is always A. And then A1 are phrases similar, but not like the exact same as A. And then B is just different or contrasting. So we won't really use this, so I won't go over it for too long. Okay, now comes practice question time. Okay, let's see. I can't see this. Okay, so basically they give you the first phrase here, and then first they say name the key. So who wants to tell me the key? What key? So there's no key signature here, and let's see. Ooh, what happened now? Okay. Who knows the key? C, C major or C minor? Major or minor? Major, yes. So this key is C major. Basically, you look at the key signature, there's nothing there, so it has to be C major or A minor. And then you can just see like all of the C's here, so it must be C. Okay, so draw phrase mark. I'll just draw one. Circle the last note. Okay, so who wants to label the scale degree? So that's like if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And then we have, let's see. Okay, so what scale degree is the last note? So that's like when you have a number on top. So like 1. Yeah, supertonic. So supertonic is the scale degree name. But here I think it just wants the number, so you can just say like 2 and then put a little arrow on top so it has a hat. Okay. Okay, who wants to circle the motive? So you can just draw on the screen. What do you think? Which part is the motive? So this circle the opening motive. So remember, motive is not the entire melody, it's the building block for it. And then another hint is that it reoccurs in the following measure. So you can just draw on the screen and circle it. Hmm. Oh my God, I'm feeling like I need to sneeze. Okay. Um, Oopsie, I already circled it unknowingly, guys. Okay, so basically these three notes are the motive. So this is like the building block for the melody. It's only 3 notes. It's literally C, D, E. OMG, I actually predicted this melody, guys. It's literally C, D, E, D, E, F. So basically this first measure here is the motive, and then basically it's a building block. It repeats here, and that's basically the entire melody. Okay, And then here it wants you to compose an answer phrase by repeating the material. Okay, so I'm not going to write that out, but basically at the end here, let's say we have like E. So I'm actually going to just write it out so you guys can kind of see how it works. So to have this parallel period, we just copy down the first part. And then at this third measure, you kind of start thinking about like what note you want at the end. So let's say we want to end on C. So then you can go like E, D, I know E, C. That's pretty much it. And then after you compose your melody, just kind of like sing the part that you altered so it makes sense. So it's not like I know some random notes. Okay. And usually it's not a good idea to like go too far from the notes. So you want to have steps or at most like a skip, but not leaps. So I wouldn't want to go like all the way to like G and then go back down here. So I want to keep it close to C since that's like my target. So I'll just go like up by a step and then back down to C. Okay, that's pretty much all you need to know for composing melodies. Okay, who wants to compose a melody here? There's also one on the next slide, I think. Okay, so two people. Who are my two volunteers or voluntold? Okay, so this first one, F major. Okay, so mark the phrases and label. Do you want to just like draw on it and come up with a melody, Ethan? Wait a sec, I need to like pull my. Okay, okay. Who wants to? I don't know how to. So basically, all you need to do is copy down. Oh, move. Okay. So all you need to do to compose a melody with a parallel period is just copy down the first two measures. So that can be the exact same as this. And then at the end, you kind of just like look, you can, for this one, since the ending note is like near the fourth measure, you can also just copy down the third measure as well. And then this last measure, you just change it a bit to make the final note end like on F, since that's the tonic of this. So basically, just copy everything down until the end. So you would write like all of this the exact same here. And then at the end, you just try to make it end on F. And then that's all. Who wants to try? We will not judge. Well, like I won't judge. Okay, y'all, you need lots of practice for writing melodies. You know, in like Harmony 9, you literally get like 10% of your entire exam is literally just like writing a melody on the first page. Like that's like the first question in your harmony exam. I always get like so much marks taken off for that. So yeah, you want to be good at writing melodies, and the best way to do that is to sing your melody and also just like write lots of melodies so then you kind of get used to it. And also like some general rules, don't have too many skips. Like if you're just like skipping all over the place from like la la, 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 then that's also not good. So what you want to do is have like organized motion almost. So for this, since they already give you the first phrase, then you can basically just copy that down since it's a parallel period. So you're using similar material to make the second phrase. So I'll just like copy it down here. So F A C. So basically a parallel period, how it works is everything is the exact same except at the end of the phrase. So all of these first few measures, I can literally just like copy it here. So it's the exact same. And then you might be like, oh, that's so repetitive though. Well, it didn't tell you to write a contrasting period, so all you need to do is copy. So if it tells you to write a parallel period and then you start like, I know, going on a composing journey, then you'll actually get marks taken off. So since it tells you to write a parallel period, all you need to do is copy everything down. Oh no, I failed at copying. So here I would copy everything to be the same. Ooh, this is so hard. Okay, almost there, guys. And then here, notice this last measure here I stopped because in this first one, it actually ended on what degree is this, like 7? But that's basically a very unstable scale degree. It's like part of your dominant. So you don't want that for your second phrase. You want it to end on a stable degree so that it sounds finished. So like if you actually sing this, you'll notice like G, F, E, it sounds like there's still like it asked a question almost. So you need to conclude it by making it sound finished. So we do that by ending on F. So I'll just write the F there. And then like, what should I do here? I'll just go like G, E, F. Like that's also fine. It doesn't matter too much what you do. As long as it makes sense and it doesn't sound weird, that's all. So that's one example of what you could do. And then you could even like end on the third scale degree if you want. So, ooh, does anyone want to come up with this last measure here? Drawing in white. Oh, okay. No, keep going. Okay. E, C. Yes, yes, correct stem direction. Okay, so only one thing here. So this is good, but this degree here is actually the fourth. So basically, we usually don't end on 4. I know you might have heard of like plagal cadences and things like that, but like plagal like this. Plagal cadences are basically when you go 1 to 4, or I think it might be like 4 to 1 or 1 to 4. So basically, plagal cadences we want to avoid. So we want to avoid this 4 degree in general because it's so like strange, you know? So like D, C, B. So B flat isn't almost it's not really part of the F major tonic triad. So instead what I want you to do is end on F or A. So those are like your two options here. So you can actually just like fix this really easily. Just add another note. So for example, here. So then you can go like do 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 like that. And that would be like a finished phrase. Just like that. So for this, just keep in mind like as long as you end on a stable scale degree at the end, then you're basically free to do whatever you want. Like this is really good. So you can do like anything as long as you don't go like I know if you don't like skip by ninths or something. So yeah, you're free to use any creativity to write the last part of the period. Okay. Okay, this is another example. So Elsa or Sue, do you guys want to write a melody? So this one is in 6/8 time, so it might be a few more notes to write. So actually what I'll do is, well, it's not too hard. It's not too bad. You just need to, okay, first let's deal with this one step at a time. So what key is this melody in? Oh, okay, what key? So melody writing can be like very overwhelming, especially if you don't know. So like actually how you would write melodies in like Harmony 9 or like higher levels is they actually make you analyze the melody first, and then you can find the structure of the melody and then you just like fill in the gaps. So I'll actually show you guys that for like after we write this one out. Okay, so first off, what key? You have two options, the major or minor key. E major? Not quite. So E major actually has four sharps, so nope. So that would be like four sharps is E major. F major? Nope, because F major actually has one flat. D, yeah, D. So it's D major. Spamming all the letters in the alphabet. Okay, so all you want to know is like, I think the easiest way is just to memorize these because like honestly, like doing a bunch of mental work is not too worth it. So all you want to do is memorize. I know like memorize is like, I know a lot of brain work at first, but then once you have it memorized, it gets so much easier and you're like, oh gee, I know this one. All I have to do is this now. So if you can memorize some basic key signatures up to like two sharps or like three sharps even, and like two flats and three flats, then you're basically like set for all of these like intervals and like scales and things like that. Okay, so now all you have to do, so this is the second scale degree. And then you just copy this down here, so I won't do that. But, and then at the end, so we have this F here. Now at the end, all you have to do is change up a few notes. So I'm going to keep everything the same in this part. And then at the end here, I'll end it on D because we love ending on the tonic. And then here, you can come up with anything. So you can like be creative. I'm not creative. Uh, I'll just go like this. E, F, G going down. Because I'm so uncreative, guys. Okay, and then if you want to be creative, you could go like down, up, down. But I'm just like going up, down, like that. So as long as you don't have like big steps or leaps, then it's much easier to like basically like just fill in the gaps. Just go like up a bit, down a bit, and then you get to your target note. So, so basically how you want to, oh yeah, I was gonna show you guys how you analyze. So I'm just gonna do some basic analyzing here. So this is 1, this is 5. Let's see, what is this? I haven't analyzed for so long, guys. So this is, I'll just say like, uh, what is this? I'll just say 4. And then back to 5. And then this here is 1. I'll just say 6. And then here is back to, okay, let's just say 5. So basically this is kind of what you would do in like harmony 9. And then you can just like come up with random melodic structures to go. So like a simple was 1 4 5 1. Basically you start on tonic, you go to subdominant, dominant, and then back to tonic. So that's like a really simple melodic structure that you could have. And then all you have to do is like have a D here, have a G here, A, and then back to D. And then you can just fill in the gaps with anything you want. So that's pretty much melody writing. Like you come up with a structure and then you fill in the gaps. And then like pretty much like all you guys have to do is at the end here, write a stable scale degree and then just fill in the gap between like the last few notes. Okay, let's see. We have analysis now. Actually, I'm going to skip this one because there's also one in intervals. Okay, on to intervals, guys. So that was pretty much all of melody writing. It's like a really short unit. You just get to learn about some melody structures. So like these elements of melodies, and then just like learn about periods and get a brief introduction to melodies. So if you want, you can practice like just like trying to come up with melodies on your own. And I think there's also practice questions in here. In this one. Worksheets here. Are there any worksheets? So like here, melody writing and composition. So like it's really similar. They already wrote out this like first few, oh no, I can't annotate. These first few parts. So this is a parallel period, and all you have to do is come up with the last few notes. So you don't have to use too much creative, just fill in the gaps pretty much. Okay, on to intervals. I know you guys all love intervals, right? Right? Okay, so keeping it pretty simple, once again, like perfect and major intervals, and then minor intervals, and then some practice. So basically, once again, you guys probably already know this, an interval is a distance between two notes, and then we have a number and a word to tell us about it. So we have the size and the quality. So we could have major second, or like minor third, or perfect first, things like that. So the word comes before the number. Okay, so to start off, perfect and major intervals. So perfect intervals will always be 1, 4, 5, and 8. That's like a fact. You cannot dispute it. So 1, 4, 5, 8, they're always perfect. Their quality is always perfect. They're so perfect. So 1, 4, 5, 8, they're just perfect numbers. So you have to call them perfect. Okay. And the reason why they're perfect is because it corresponds to these important scale degrees. So like tonic, subdominant, dominant, and octave. So these are like the most important like scale degrees and chords in music. So that's why we have one. So one is just the same note, so of course it's perfect. Five, because it's also the interval that separates each key signature. And then that's why it's also perfect, also because it's like important in a lot of other things, like chords. And also just because when you play it, it has a different sound almost. It just sounds like different, you know? So that's why we have a different quality for it. Perfect. And then perfect fourth just is perfect because perfect fifth is perfect. And then when you add the two up, you get an octave. And then this is just an octave. So basically you have these perfect intervals and then the rest of them are major. So they also sound like happy, but they're not perfect. So we have major second, third, sixth, and seventh. So basically all of these intervals correspond to like a scale. So if you notice, this is like the C major scale. So the notes on the top are going up. And then basically the note on the bottom stays the same, and then the note on the top is going up. So that's pretty much intervals. It's the distance between the two notes. So if you had a major scale going up, so only the top note is changing, then you can get pretty much all of the intervals from it. So the same note is perfect one, you go up one, and you get major second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. So when you're following a scale, everything you'll get is either perfect or major. So even if you had like, I don't know, like G major, if you go up along it, then you would still only have perfect or major intervals. And then minor intervals, they're kind of built different, so we'll get to those. But basically, when you're going up along the scale, you'll always have major and perfect intervals. So think about the distance. If you're following a major scale, you'll always have major intervals. And just remember like 1, 4, 5, 8, they're all perfect. Mainly what you have to remember is 4 and 5. So those are the two that are perfect, so don't ever call them major. Okay, minor intervals. So now we're getting to the built different ones. Okay, so minor intervals are created by lowering the upper note of a major interval. So major interval, it's very happy, it's simple. You go up along its scale and then you can get to it. And then minor intervals, you just get to it by lowering the top note by basically without changing the letter name. So notice how I didn't say you can get to a minor interval by following the minor scale, but that's because minor scales also have major intervals. So basically, intervals, don't think of the major and the minor as like from their scales. A major interval is larger than a minor interval. So this top one is major, it's larger than a minor interval. So think of it as having more distance. And then a perfect is almost like its own category. So it's not bigger necessarily, but it's like its own category. So we have two categories. The first one is the perfect, so that's its by itself. And then the second one is major and minor. So major is larger than minor. Okay, so for this slide, it tells you that you can get minor intervals by making a major interval slightly smaller. So this is why I said major intervals are larger than minor intervals. So the only way you can get a minor interval is by making a major one smaller. So you do that by adding a flat, basically, to the top note. So all of these are adding flats. And then another way is like, let me think. So let's say if we had Hmm. I actually can't come up with a good example, but like if you had a key signature with lots of flats, and then you want to find the distance between like, I know, F and D. So this is actually a major interval. So this is F flat and D flat. And all you can do is like think of like the two flats as canceling out almost. And then you have F and D, which is a major interval. So then in this case, to make it a minor interval, you would basically, to lower the flat, you would actually have to do like a double flat, I think. Oh my God, that's such a bad example. Why did I come up with that? But like in any case, like basically whenever you want to lower the upper note, always use a flat. So don't change the letter name. Don't be like C and D sharp because that's like not a major or minor interval. It's like its own thing. So never change the letter name because that also changes the size of the interval and the quality of it as well. So the only way you can get minor intervals is by making a major interval smaller without changing the size. So notice size isn't necessarily like something that is fixed. So size always comes from the letter names. So we have C and D, that's always two. Even if you had like D double flat, that's still a two. Or like sharp, it's still two in size. So this is why I say you want to get a minor interval basically without changing the size, so without changing the letter name. Okay, that probably did not make sense, but practice questions will make it go all away, all your confusion, trust. Okay, oh, we have one and two. Who wants to do one and who wants to do two? Okay, Ethan can do one and then Elsa or Sue. So this is kind of what I mean by like steps that you want to go through. So major intervals always belong to major scales. So then you always look at, does this note belong to the major scale? And then if it isn't, if it's been lowered, then it's a minor interval. So that's kind of your thought process that you have to go through for identifying everything. Okay. So Ethan, do you want to do the first one or the second one? Okay, first, who wants to do the second one? Elsa or Sue? Okay, so the second, so basically it's just asking you what the bottom note is. So like the bottom note is the first degree of, in this case, like since it starts on E, so it's basically just asking you what note the bottom note is. So like the bottom note is tonic of E. So literally just like E of E major scale, you know? And then this one is like the dot process you want to go through. Is the upper note part of E major scale or has it been lowered? Mm. Okay, Elsa or Sue, do you want to do the second one? Sue? Sue, you got voluntold. You've been forced to do the second question now. Oh, you guys can, I don't know, decide. We also have more questions, so you'll all have a chance. A chance or more like a torture? Okay, and once again, when you're counting intervals, make sure you also count like the bottom note. So like always count the bottom note as one and then go up. Hmm. Ethan, are you done? Okay, so I don't know if M is part of the size, but okay, let's see. E- Okay, be careful when ooh. Okay, be careful when counting the size. So I want you to count the size again. I guess I'll do the second one as an example then. Okay, meanwhile, Ethan, I want you to count the size of your interval one more time. Be careful. Okay, so let's start on the second one. So A flat is 1, B is 2, C is 3. So this interval is 3. That's its size. So we're not talking about quality yet. And then the bottom note is the first degree of the A flat major scale. So that sounds like very fancy, but basically it's telling you what is the root of this. Basically, like what is this bottom note is all it's asking. And then does the upper note belong to the major scale or has it been lowered? So be careful here. So A flat major has 4 flats, B, E, A, and D. So C is not one of those. So it's not part of its key signature, which means that it has to have been lowered. So we have A, and also another way that you can do this without like spending all that brain power on A flat major is you can look at both of these. Since they're both flats, so that means they've both been like lowered to the black keys. You can just remove these flats. So erase them almost. Only look at A and C. So since they've both been lowered, you can just both raise them both the same amount. So A and C natural are the exact same as A flat and C flat. So A and C, if you think about it, C is not part of A major scale because A major has a C sharp. So this one is lowered. So that means since it's been lowered, it's smaller, lowered is smaller. So the size and quality is minor third. And then if you notice like A flat and C flat, it's the same as A and C natural. Okay, okay, I'll go over Ethan's. So this is actually a sixth. So if you count here one more time, 3, 4, 5. So B is 5 and then C is 6. So it's actually a 6. And then the bottom note is E. And be careful. E major's key signature is 4 sharps. So that includes C. So if you were going happily along your E major scale, then C would be one of those keys that are sharped. So it would not be long, it would be lowered. So like first of all, make sure you don't get the size wrong. So that's just like another way you can look at this like quickly. So the easiest sizes to mess up are 6 and 7 because you can't really tell and they're so far apart. So instead, you can start from the top. So here you know this is 8. And then if you only have to go down one note, then that means it's 7. If you have to go down 2 notes, then that means it's 6. So that's an easy way to check if you're like at 6 or 7 and you don't know which one. So this one, since you had to go down 2 from this high E, that means that it's a 6. Okay, so this one is a 6, and then C, it doesn't belong to E major scale, so that means that this interval is minor 6. Okay, what time is it right now? Okay, let's look at guys. Oh, let me exit. Okay. Oh, not look at give me kit. Okay, this one. What game mode do you guys want to do? Don't look down. Mm, let's see. Maybe I should make like a new account so then we can get like a free trial. Knockback, I think is, let's see. Do you guys want to try knockback? It's Game Kit Pro exclusive. Bruh. Oh, it's limited to 5 players, but we have like 5 people already, so we're good with the limit. So do you guys want to do knockback then? Sure, okay. Energy per, let's make this 5 minutes, sure. Free for all. Where's the start button? I can't see. I have so many things on my screen. Okay. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, the interesting thing about Gimkit is like I also get to play, which is so funny. I get to play in my own generated class, y'all. What's Gimkit? Interesting name. No. What happens if you fall down? Oh, there's a down place. Join, join, join. Elsa. Oh no, what happened to my chatta? Wow, you have a trail, so cool. I'm just a brown ball. Dude, did you join? Dude, join. Answer question. Knock players off the map. Interesting. Sue. Okay, we don't have much time, so I'll just start it, and then I think joining late is turned on. KK. Bro, that was so interesting. Wow, Elsa's first. OMG. So pro, y'all. I'm so bad at this game. I can only answer questions. Okay, okay, our stats are not okay, guys. Sigh. It's okay. There's always room for improvement. Y'all should practice intervals, so um we have our wonderful worksheet practice, so if you ever need more practice, just come to here, press on the unit that we're on, and then you have lots of practice. Though I know you guys probably won't want to practice. I did, yeah. So I think the easiest way to do like everything in theory is just memorize the key signatures. Like honestly, like as soon as you do everything, just life just gets so much easier. It's like, wow. Okay. Other than that, the next unit is, what is it? Music history. So you guys get to listen to old music. Yippee. And nope, homework, but if you guys got a lot of questions wrong, I recommend you to do this interval practice. And you can also do melody writing practice if you are interested in melody writing. Okay, thanks for joining class today, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.